paradigm at one point, but then it doesn't explain this. And then it doesn't explain like the paradigm that says that megalithic architecture is only 6,000 years old and that the first megalithic architecture was in Malta. That can't explain the massive megalithic site of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey 5,500 years before that. It's evidence like that, the slow accumulation of evidence that the existing system cannot explain, that at an eventual point, no matter how strongly the advocates of the existing system hold on to it, no matter how determined they are in their defense, no matter what dirty tricks they may choose to deploy to undermine their opponents, sooner or later the evidence overwhelms them and the paradigm goes down and you have a new way of thinking. And that is the story of science, and it is a story that I think we're at a tipping point in our understanding of the past of the human species. I am not saying that I am 100% right. I believe that what I'm doing that's worthwhile is I'm asking questions about the past that haven't been asked enough. I'm putting archaeologists on the spot and demanding that they explain themselves. I don't claim that I'm right. I'm offering an alternative theory, and my objective is to get people to think for themselves, to think about this stuff, and not to accept the voice of authority as the sole medium of truth. That's what I've tried to do.
Have you had any archaeologists review any of this work and change their opinions?
No.
No,
I haven't. But what I have found, and I found it interestingly during the research trips for America before, is a younger generation of archaeologists who are in the field. And they are quite different from the older generation of archaeologists who were running the whole scene 25 years ago.
Of course.
Now we have a very different younger generation, a younger generation that has been exposed to open-minded thinking, that has been exposed to the internet, that itself, as part of the general pattern of the younger generation, is suspicious of authority. I'm meeting young archaeologists on sites. For example, I met a couple of really amazing young minds on a site called Blackwater Draw in Arizona, New Mexico, where one of the first Clovis sites, the young archaeologists I met there were incredibly open-minded and really willing to consider extraordinary possibilities about the past, and privately admitted to me that they'd read my books.
Well, that's where I get the hope. I get the hope in this young generation that is growing up with the internet, that does understand that there's a lot more out there than just what they're being taught in schools.
Yes, yeah. This is where the hope lies, and it lies in every area. And it's why one of the intriguing things that has happened with me, and your show is an important part of this, is that when I go around giving public events, doing a public presentation of my work, the demography of the audience is extremely interesting. And this is true whether I'm giving the talk in Britain, whether I'm giving it in Canada, whether I'm giving it in America. Part of the audience are older people who read me in the 1990s, who got onto my work with Fingerprints of the Gods in 1995, and they've stuck with me, and they've carried on reading my work. But another part of the audience, and a very big part of the audience, consists to a large extent of young people, most of whom are men, but there are women amongst them as well. And what those mainly young men come up to me and say at the end of the event is, we first encountered your work on Joe Rogan's show, and it completely opened our minds. It changed it. I've had so many young men say, this has changed my life. And then I asked myself, well, why should a different take on the past change people's lives? Why should people feel that their lives have been changed by a different take on the past? Which I add they would not know about unless you'd had the good grace to bring me on your show. These ideas would not be known, but they are known because of the amazing outreach of your show. And the answer to that question, why does it change a person's life, is that once we realize that we have been misinformed about our past, that everything that we've built our idea of who we are upon and of where we're going as a culture may be founded on falsehoods and perhaps even deliberate lies, once that is realized, then all the questions about the nature of the society we live in become open. And young people are feeling the need to take an independent path, not to follow the path that has been set down for them by previous generations. And in some way, and I'm very gratified to hear this, the fact that I'm an elder now, I'm 69 next birthday, the fact that
You look great.
Thank you. The fact that I, as an elder, have consistently pursued an independent path, have been willing to put up with the shit that's been thrown at me over the years, but have stuck to my guns and have continued to add new information to the dossier of information that I put forward. That is, and I'm encouraged to see this, that's found as inspiring by younger people. And what better gift could an old guy hope to leave to the world than a younger generation who feel inspired by that person's work to change the world?
Well, I'm very, very thankful that I could introduce people to you, because your first book that I read of you, Fingerprints of the Gods, changed my view of the world. I mean, I remember putting that book down after I was finishing, going, "Wow! Like if he's right, like this whole thing is a mess."
Yeah, a complete mess. Because our idea of who we are is very much founded in our idea of who we were, and I think one of the mistakes that's made in our civilization is that we are very conceited, we're very big-headed, and we tend to view the whole story of history as though it's a project that leads to us, that we're what it's all about. And I think what is how can I put it, undermining of the existing system about a new take on the past is the notion that we're not what it's all about at all. That there may have been an earlier civilization that reached a high level of advancement, perhaps different from ours, but nevertheless an advanced civilization, which was just taken out of the story completely by a global cataclysm. Then we suddenly realize that in a way we're here accidentally, that it's not been a process that's been all about us, and that if we've been misinformed about how we got here, then we need to get the true information about what's going on. So these are in a way profoundly revolutionary ideas. They do lead people on a path of inquiry that leads to questioning of everything.
And our fears that you were just discussing earlier about how soft we are in comparison to past civilizations in terms of like our ability to live off the land, that's one aspect that bothers me. But one of the big ones that bothers me is the fact that everything is digital. All of our information is stored on hard drives.
You bet.
And if that goes down, there's not much left. You have paper books and you know, a few thousands of years. Imagine what would be left.
Yeah,
we would lose all of our advancement.
Well, I can speak to this at a personal level. There was a time when I was an excellent map reader. I could navigate anywhere with maps. You know, my wife Santha and I did huge journeys in Mexico back in the early 1990s in really cheap hire cars with maps, and we found our way everywhere without any problem. Today, I can hardly use a map